welcome to By Any Means podcast. My name is Henry Lucas. I'm with the lovely.
Sharita Walden.
Hey, sis, how's it going?
How you doing? I'm trying to share this. What we want everybody else to do is I'm trying to like and share our podcast for the top of the month. But I'm doing really, really good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm looking forward to our segment today of just getting back to just me and you having a conversation, checking in about how we're doing, how things are going, and hopefully we'll be able to help somebody today.
All the time, Henry, all the time. So before we get into our real deep conversation, juicy conversation, raw conversation, authentic conversation. Let's have Ryan come in and share some updates and news and what's happening here at the Kentucky Harm Reduction Coalition.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to By Any Means podcast. I am here with your updates, keeping up with KYHRC. We have some tabling events that are coming up. One is this weekend, October the 4th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can visit us at the Epiphany Catholic Church Community Health and Wellness Fair at 1914 Old Harrods Creek Road. October the 11th, you can also join us from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Redeemer Lutheran Church Annual Festival and Health Fair. The address is 3640 River Park Drive. October the 29th from 10 to 1, you can meet some of our men outreach and participants at the Boys Brotherhood Sports Conference. It will be at the Kentucky Science Center at 727 West Main Street. And then also November the 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be a Big Bob event. And we will be at the 1325 Bluegrass Avenue here in Kentucky. If you would like to reach out to us to get us at your event, you can go to our website, www.kyhrc.org, and you can utilize the contact button and you can get us at your next event and next event, as well as your next occasion that you would like for our services to be at or information to be at. Again, thank you for joining, keeping up with KYHRC. Back to you and you, Sharita and Henry.
Thank you.
I love that. Don't
I
you
do.
love that?
Just a good update.
It is.
It is, yeah. And I
And we
thought,
don't leave anything out. It's like because I love that Ryan do it because I be feeling like I'm leaving out so much when I try to do that. So it feels good to hear all the things that we're doing and everyone can really, really jump in.
it's a lot. It's a lot, and we do a lot. We're involved in a lot. Always, shaking and moving over here on this side. And it's easy to forget all the big and all the small ways that this organization is having an impact all throughout our community in the state of Kentucky. So I gotta say, sis, your energy is quite lovely today. What's going on? You seem very playful and light spirited.
Um, well, I'm gonna start with the biggest thing because a lot of people don't talk about that. They don't acknowledge it. When people see this part of me, what they're actually seeing, Henry, is that I'm really leaning into taking care of myself very well. Okay. Therapy. Listen, I having that space, and it's not, I wanna make a point. It's not that I walk in and every time I'm in my session, it's like, yay, I walk out and I'm like this. In fact, a lot of my sessions lately have been quite heavy and emotional and talking about trauma. And side note, if I start to shed any tears, you guys, I am embracing my tears right now.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm not holding them back because it's a part of my process. but it does make me feel good when you can see it on the outside, which means that the inside stuff is working. So the days that it's a hard session, it's showing up like this. So the first thing is it's my regular, consistent therapy. Stay consistent because, well, you know me. I've had hit and misses about a year before this process started, and I've been really committed to not missing any of my sessions, and I do think it's paying off.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you acknowledging and seeing that it's working. It's working.
Yeah. Burnout is real, you know, and I think there's a lot of factors that, play into burnout. And, my mental health hasn't been the best.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been a tough, couple months for me. And I went to therapy on Friday. It had been quite a while since I've been in therapy, and so I reached out to my therapist. I scheduled a 2-hour session, and we just went in. And
Mm,
I think the challenge for me, and maybe you relate to this, the challenge for me being a father and a husband and a business owner and a board president, all of these things that I identify with, the challenge for me is all the people and all the things that I hold,
mm,
you know, um, the burden of leadership. And I have I have a responsibility um, to a lot of people, in my life. But sometimes that I cross over this threshold of being responsible to being overly responsible. Well, not
mm,
being overly responsible, it's feeling overly responsible. It's the feeling of, internally, it's this pressure,
mm,
that I feel to make sure everybody's good and to make sure everybody's satisfied and to make sure that, everybody's happy. And like the truth is, that's always a setup. And so what I ultimately feel as a leader, sometimes when I'm in this process, I'm in a really good space at the moment. Um, I feel this pressure, and I feel let down and discouraged and disheartened when
mm,
someone's not happy. You know,
mm,
when I'm not perfect, right? And when we talk about trauma, it's like I can very clearly see how all of this goes back to those very early moments in my life where I had to be responsible. I had to
mm,
really grow up quickly. I had to make sure that my mother's emotional well being was okay. I had to manage that. It was about survival because I learned that if I'm going to get the payoff, if I'm going to get the thing that I need to survive, which is acknowledgement, which is validation, it means that I learned to perform.
mm,
And it can still, after all these years, almost 2 decades in recovery and all the healing work that I've done, and it still gets tripped up sometimes. And
mm.
and I'm free from that in this moment, and I can recognize, just how resilient um, I am.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I can appreciate that. I think we've had some times to be able to check in because we had the opportunity to collaborate on our recent our session at a conference, and we were closing out the last month. Um, but that the weight when you said that it resonates so much with me. I know that me and my colleague, Erica, we've been talking about the weight. of leadership and the weight of all the roles and all the hats we wear in our spaces and how we navigate that. And, or as you said earlier this week, and thank you again for sharing your gift with our team at our Wellness Restoration Day. Um, but how sometimes these weights, these different roles, can also create the barrier to my ability to meet people where they are. Um, it's a lot going on this year. And as I sit with the beginning, I always like beginnings. I like new months, but this is not just a new month. We're entering into the last quarter of the year, of the calendar year, and thinking about what, how am I setting the tone as I move into this last quarter? Because for us and our work here, it's not just the last quarter, but it's also the beginning of new things, new projects, new innovative projects that are large, and there's gonna it's gonna require a certain part of us that, if we're not careful, all of those things that do weigh on us can prevent us from moving forward, right?
At the same time, biologically, we moving into hibernating season
Oh, yes.
where we really ain't supposed to be doing a whole lot.
Right. So we're kind of right. So we're pushing against that. So how do we center both? Acknowledge that this is the time where you sit back a little bit more. How do we balance both of those? Because they're both relevant. They're both, but it can coexist, right? So how do we do that in a society where there's so much happening? It's happening so fast that, honestly, I'll tell you something, Henry. I thought I was tripping, like I wasn't on anything, like a mood or mind altering substance. But I'm gonna tell you, the last couple of days, when I sat on my porch, I sit on my porch at night as a part of my process in the evening to reflect, and I sit on the porch and I have tea. But the moon, where I saw it, and I look down as I'm reading, and I look back up and I see the trees now covering the moon. I'm like, is it moving that fast? Are we moving so fast? And then the next day, the moon being so far away from where it was the night before. I feel like as I was growing up, and I don't know, I'm kind of seeing this all in my head as I'm talking, but as I was growing up, I felt like the moon was slow, or I felt like it was, life seemed to be slower. But now, just in a matter of 2 days, I was like, it feels like the world is moving at this pace,
Yeah,
and I don't want to move at that pace.
I know, I know. It reminds me of a phrase that I've heard that's been really sticking true for me this year, as I embrace the gifts and the challenges of fatherhood.
Mm,
And it's the days are long, and the weeks are short.
mm,
You know, and it is. I mean, it is. Things are always happening everywhere, all of the time. It is fast. What we can accomplish in one day, it would take a week, and what we can accomplish in a week, it took a month. If you look at just how much more advanced we are, what takes a year at one point, it took 10 years.
mm-hmm.
And this sort of microwave society that we live in is creating a lot of opportunity, but it's also creating a lot of turmoil because we feel like we have to keep up.
Right.
But I think it's about having a compassionate, realistic, and practical approach, and really knowing our limits,
Mm.
and saying, what are the things in my life that I can do without? Who are the people I need to let go of? Like, what are the distractions that are in and around me that are really draining my energy or really pulling me away from the thing that I want to focus on?
Hmm.
And I know for me, one of the things that comes up as I say that is, I haven't been on Facebook in about 4 years. I haven't been on, Instagram in 3 or 4 months. And I get on LinkedIn maybe for less than 5 minutes every few weeks. And life's been pretty enjoyable for the most part with just eliminating that. I feel like I've gotten so much more back, in my life.
Mm.
I notice I'm not comparing myself as much. I'm not feeling that inadequacy, as much. I, I'm more interested in what people are doing and how they're spending their time in their life. I want to know more about other people. I'm less concerned with talking about myself
Mm.
all the time. It feels like taking a break from social media. I've really have been right sized, again, and knowing where I sort of stand in relationship to the different parts of my life.
Now I'm gonna say I can agree with that. I didn't intentionally step away, but as I'm on new journeys with my educational journey, I have noticed a difference in my attention to things. Or as you know, what did you say to me? You notice that I overcommit, right? I I'm not involved in a lot of those conversations, right? That can distract me or pull me in too quickly into. They all matter, all the issues matter, but because my passion and my heart lives on the outside of my skin, literally at times, I'm not running into that need to jump in. And that, when I think about our theme of the day, that's back up on here. And if you hopped into the podcast, you guys, please share this podcast. This is setting the tone for the rest of the month, for the rest of the year. So just hope you all get a chance to chime in as well. But the shift, right? I can feel the shift in the unintentional things that fell off and the unintentional spaces I'm no longer in. I was having a conversation with one of our board members, Myron, and you know, talking about as we move into new journeys and seasons in our life, not just our personal life and our but our in our professional life separately, but all things, you start to notice the shift in the circles that you're around. And it's not to say that the people who were in my circle at one point, maybe even in the beginning of the year, that are no longer right there sitting in the same seat, is not to say that that didn't matter. In fact, I feel like every one of those relationships and connections matter, because I wouldn't be able to engage in the next relationship like I do if I didn't have the relationship previously with a different person or a different group of people. So the shift, I as I look back, I love to look back on myself. We always talk about write your 5 year goals, your 10 year goals, your 3 year goals. Well, what I like to do is also go back, because I sometimes the growth isn't as large. You can't see them. So I like to go back and really look at 3 years ago in this moment. I probably would have been devastated about some of the shifts that have taken place. I probably would have not been able to carry on. It would have stopped me in my tracks. It would have halted me. It would have limited my ability to really understand how impactful and how grateful, the gratitude in it. Um, I can see the growth in that.
I know, I was talking a few minutes ago about being in therapy on Friday, and sometimes I just don't know how or why things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of just stopped questioning it, and know that it's kind of there for me. It's there for us. So I leave, my therapist. We meet in their home,
Mm-hmm.
and I go and I get in my car, and before I take off, I'm sitting there and breathing and like, okay, you can drive. It was a pretty heavy session, and I look down, and in the console um, was a, my journal. I didn't know the journal was there, but I looked down and it said March 29th, 2025, which was like almost 6 months ago to the day. I just looked down and I thought, well, that's really interesting. So I picked it up and I read it, and it was almost like my version for me 6 months ago was talking to the version of me now
Oh wow.
about what this next 6 months was going to look like. And it was like you were saying, it was like sometimes we forget, how far we've come if we don't reflect on the past. But I think the challenge is to not stay in the past,
Right.
right? But to use the past and that time really as a way of measuring, where we are in that shift. Because, you think about a shift. Well, what needs to happen for a shift? It's like, well, friction needs to happen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a shift isn't you go from this to this. Like a shift is you go from this to this. And the
Mm-hmm.
shift isn't from, here to here. The shift is all those little small, tedious, we don't even think anything's happening. That's the shift,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the shifting it's always happening.
It is. And it's hard. It's up to us, right, to slow down and be able to sit with it and see it. And no, we are not going to be given a cue to do it. It's an intentional. It's you setting the standard that I'm going to slow it down. I don't have to skip over this, and that's all a part of the process for me, and how I feel about myself and how I feel about the work I'm doing and how I'm showing up. And so yeah, I as we open up and really lay that groundwork, what is it that's taking place is first becoming fully aware that all of these shifts matter. It matters because if we don't make it matter, then we get distracted by all the things, and it doesn't negate. And I say it like that, and I like to put emphasis on that because I think there's a misunderstanding from people where it's like, well, are you saying I shouldn't be concerned that my employer is telling me that I cannot use this language? You saying I shouldn't be concerned that they're saying there's never going to be funding right now, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not saying that you get negate the true feeling of fear and the true feeling of anxiety around all the things being thrown at you. But this is why it's important to reflect. Because although we've never been in a time very specific like this, we've been in times of crisis. We've been in times of, in situations, especially in our society, where it felt like it is doomsday. How many times, Henry, has someone said, this is the end and we all are going, like, the world is going to blow up? I mean, how many years have you been alive where there's been this real hyper focus on the world ending? I mean, Prince had 1999. Like that whole song was about 2000. We were supposed to be blowing up. Things were just gonna change so significantly. So I'm like, if we reflect, every time there's been a serious crisis, something huge, it always has this idea of fight, flight, or freeze. It's a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really grateful for my wife,
Mm.
and you know, I go through shit all the time, and it's in my head, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that people don't have like hardships and people don't have
Right.
um, but there's a lot of us that live damn good lives, and the center of our suffering is how we think about the world and how we think about ourselves in the world. And I love my wife, and I was going through it mentally a few weeks ago, and she could tell because I kind of have that face, like don't come near me. I don't want to talk about what I'm thinking about and what I'm feeling. And she was like, what's going on? And I'm telling her all this stuff, and she listens, and then she says, okay, um, and out of all of that, which of that is has actually happened?
Mm.
And I thought very quickly, none of it.
Right.
But you don't get, and I went on this thing, and she was like, no, no, you're not listening to me. Like, what is happening?
Right.
And I really sat there and was like, nothing, actually. I'm here with you right now in our house with our kids. Nothing. And it was like, okay. And it's like, I just felt myself become more safe.
Mm-hmm.
And like so many of us, for a lot of reasons, and there's certainly a societal, cultural, impact, so many of us feel unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that like we are unsafe, and I know there's people in really unsafe conditions, right now. But what I'm saying though is the feeling of being unsafe is not the same as actually being unsafe.
Right. Right.
So the more that we can feel safe, we really give ourselves permission to relax. And there's healing in that. By just feeling safe and just allowing myself to relax is healing in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been being where I've been and growing up through some of the things that I grew up in, you could not relax.
Right.
Bad things would happen if you ever were off guard. But so many of us feel unsafe. It's maybe not even that we're totally unsafe. We feel unsafe, and it's like we think about our leadership in the country, and someone asked me last week, well, what do you think is going to happen with Medicaid? And we're all really anxious and nervous about Medicaid going away and
Right.
all this. And I said, well, it is a possibility, but what we know, like right now, is we have in Kentucky over a year.
Mm-hmm.
We have over a year, so there's really nothing right now that we need to be concerned with
Right.
until we get more information. And then once we get more information, then we can start to strategize, or we can start to plan, or we can organize. We can protest. We can take some sort of call of action. But so many people feel unsafe, and their coping skill is to move directly into action or to stay busy. And all that does is perpetuates the feeling of unsafe and justifies, see, we can't, this is why we can't rest.
Right.
We will literally create dramas and create problems for ourselves just so that we stay busy, because when we slow down we feel unsafe.
Yeah. No, that's a true statement. And let me be clear, followers and listeners and folks who are going to catch this recording. This is not the same as toxic positivity. This is not the same of saying, no, we have to be hopeful, because people will hear things, and I recognize that a lot more now than ever, is that what people hear and walk away with, right? And we don't have the luxury of following up on everything as we do in our career. You can follow up with your staff, but with people who are just temporarily in our space with us. So this space, this isn't the same as a toxic way of looking at it, saying, no, we just have to stay hopeful. It's not about that. People say, you're so passionate and you have this sense of anger. And I say, absolutely, I do. I am angry. Why not? Because the question now is to you, why aren't you? Right? Why aren't you? So I can own that for myself. The shift for me is that my anger doesn't drive me to make a decision quickly. It takes strategy, it takes sitting down, it takes planning, which means now I have to slow down. So, yes, I'm still the same Shreeta that's going to walk in, but how Sharita approaches and utilize the energy of anger, utilize the energy of sadness and trauma, utilize the energy of all the things that are happening right now. I even Henry, the start of this year, and you can reflect back to just our conversations that weren't for the world to see, but when we first started this year and the harm reduction language. I mean, you talk about somebody that was burnt up. You guys, it was under my skin. You talk about hot. I'm already a fire sign. So it was like boiling room. It was just, and I could feel it inside of me still right now. It did nothing but impact my health. um, I mean, I ended up having to go to physical therapy because of the pain that I was in, and understanding this is all psychosomatic. This was pain that was not even derived from something medically underneath. I want you all to listen to that. It was sitting inside of me. All of that stuff was causing issues and symptoms that my body was like, okay, fine. Since you're going to hold on to it, you're back. You know, in fact, we're going to keep you from walking right because you're holding on to something that you absolutely have no control. Powerlessness. When I was able to finally say, there is absolutely nothing I can do about the words that are being spewed because there's no real action behind it. What am I doing? Why am I harming myself? I'm at an age right now that, heart responses, strokes, all these things are real for us, Henry. And going through 3 to 4 months of physical therapy and finding that the simplest things of movement, consistent just talking therapy, my psychiatrist, having all this whole care team, utilizing Kamalitha, who you got a chance to officially meet, tip it forward, learning how to center that energy, breathing with Cielo. I've been breathing, and my physical therapist was like, I have noticed how you breathe. You breathe so well. And I'm sitting here like, I'm using all these things, and come to find out, I'm looser. Come to find out, our entire office, you have 3 people in your office, Henry, who are dealing with major back and nerve issues. Being able to take care of myself and see that we have our funders who are harm reduction led said, get the things that you all need inside of your office, ergonomic things so that our team can actually focus on the work. You've seen a change and you see the shift inside of the workspace. People walking around their back, not being able to sit, hurting. It was becoming a real issue, and not that no one wasn't liking like the energy of each other, but you could see the physical, how it was physically weighing on everyone. And to start seeing the shift even in the last 30 days, Henry, my goodness. That too, then when you acknowledged earlier my energy, being able to, we do a lot of work as leaders, as you know. We're at these computers, we're having conversations, and these are real intentional conversations to move the work forward. And for our team to now feel like their bodies are equipped to do it, it has been an amazing shift for us. don't negate what's happening, but what are we doing with that? What are we doing with the anger? Where is it really going when
Yeah.
it's sitting inside of you?
Yeah. You're talking about alchemy.
Talk a little bit more. We got a lot
Yeah,
of people that watch.
I know. I'm warming up. I'm warming up. You're talking about, transmutation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because what what we what we avoid becomes unavoidable at some point,
Mm,
right? And what we'll call this is we'll call this stress. We'll call it chronic and inescapable stress.
okay.
And what the mind forgets, the body remembers. And all of these feelings and all of this stress and all of this, trauma and all of the anxiety, all of the rage, it has to go somewhere.
Mm,
And if it's not expressed, it gets suppressed
mm,
and we become depressed. The solution for depression is expression, by the way.
mm,
And we all need relief from these things, and we don't quite know, if I'm not talking about how I'm feeling authentically with somebody that I trust, like over time those feelings compound,
mm,
right? They get stored, and it might show up as muscle stiffness. It might show up as irritable bowel syndrome.
mm.
It might show up as an autoimmune uh, compromisation, or it's not even a word I just made up. It might, it's going to show up as an autoimmune disease.
Right.
This chronic and inescapable stress. It wreaks havoc on our endocrine systems. It wreaks
Mm,
havoc on our um, every part of who we are, and those effects, they accumulate. And so what happens is we become, diabetic. What
mm,
happens is we develop certain cancers. You
mm-hmm.
know, what happens is we people literally become constipated, which is a it's a representation of how the body it's literally holding on.
To shit.
It's yeah, bacteria,
Right.
right? And that's a physical representation of what I believe emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually it happens. Our
Mm,
bodies keep the score, which is the name of a really famous book written by Bessel van der Kolk. Our bodies hold on to the stuff that we go through.
yes.
And I can tell, and it makes sense now when I go back to when I was complimenting you in the beginning. It's because I'm seeing you hold your joy and your optimism and your gratitude. I'm seeing you hold that in your face and in your shoulders very differently. Not saying that the anger is not there and the passion's not there,
Right.
that you're some Zen, Buddhist, you know, not that. I mean, you still got that grit, and that resiliency. But you're really modeling like how important it is for us to like do our own work in all the ways that we do it, in whatever that care team or whatever that care, uh, um, that comprehensive care that we have, in our lives. How am I sleeping? Am I getting enough water? Right? Am I
Mhm.
moving? What's my libido like? What's my digestion?
Right.
You know, what am I eating? Like, what else am I consuming? On social media, or what
Dang.
shows, what movies, right? Am I watching? Like, it's really tough if I'm in a world full of criticism. And then at night, my way of unwinding is to watch, Real Housewives of Atlanta,
Right.
where it's just drama and chaos,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that really setting the tone for how am I really taking care of myself, like beyond the limits of Netflix and chill, right? How am I really taking care of myself? How am I nurturing myself? How am I treating myself when no one else is around?
Yeah, whoa. Now that's big.
Yeah, because I'll go get a cheeseburger.
And as you were talking about that, I was thinking, I think that the uh Sarah's comment caught me off guard. And in case people on our YouTube side didn't see it, I love it because Sarah's right. We got to think of ourselves like a sim character sometimes. And honestly, my daughter plays it so much and she has a whole family. She's created so much. That's a cool way, especially for our generations, that is what's guiding them right now. That is so cool, Sarah. Thank you for that. And when our producer gets a chance, I'm gonna have our producer put that up on as a banner because I think it's gonna resonate with a group of folks. Uh,
Look, I could keep a damn Tamagotchi alive, but I ain't had time to even use the bathroom today.
Listen, right? Listen. I've seen her do it all. It's an amazing simulation of something that we are not utilizing. We just put it out there, right? I wanted to say something real quick before I
Yeah,
lose
yeah, yeah, yeah,
ADHD. Do it.
yeah.
Um, I used to attend a faith-based space, a church that regularly, annually participated in a fasting, and it's actually around this time of the year. And the idea is everything that I'm talking about. What am I doing for myself? And this is where I think the frustration lies. I know for me in the conversations and spaces I've been in where people want to rejoin some of these faith-based spaces, the institutions, but are having a conflict with how, because it's not marrying the true intent around the fast. The
Yeah.
fact that I don't no longer go to that space, but I've learned what fasting means for me, like how to really utilize it. I have to honestly say in a very transparent way, and I hope some of the people I'm connected to that are doing it right now, that are fasting right now, really listening to what we're talking about, is I am literally practicing all parts of that fast now. I know when I need to really step away and it's full and it's not in front of other people. When you said that part, what are we doing when we're alone? It's ourselves. And that is what we're seeing too. How are you doing this? No, I know I had a guide and a religious system, but I've taken parts of that because, again, every space, every connection, every relationship is very impactful for the journey I'm on, and it was needed. So I've taken parts of that, and now I'm really utilizing that to disconnect, to really pull those pieces and take away and shed those things that no longer serve me. Because the truth of the matter, Henry, is when we had our first conversation and you pulled up on me and you said, "Hey, sis, I know you was angry, and I know you know what I'm talking about." There was some things you said. It was our first year actually working together on this, and I reflected on that, and I reflect on that moment a lot because it harmed a potential relationship. But when I reflect back, the way that I carry joy, I can honestly say I was not. In fact, most of the lens and the visual I had, I can realistically say 90% of that was through pain, trauma, anger. That was the lens I saw so much. And it limited my ability to embrace any other idea outside of that. That that version of me was so hurt. That version of me was a walking sore, like an open wound. And when I look back on her, on that version of Sharita, it's like I want to hold her. I want to hug her. I want to tell her, girl, it is okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to release. Good God. Why are you holding on to so much? So I'm sitting here like, people often ask, and I don't know if people ask you, Henry, but people ask me, how? What is it that you're doing? And I like to tell them that it's not like calculus. But I will say that it is intentional. It is me being intentional. Is me being very aware that that version of me, I don't want her to have to come and be in survival in the way she was.
We got to get in touch with the hurt.
Oh, yeah,
Anger is normal and it's a natural emotion. We experience anger when we don't get what we want or something interferes with some plan or some path. But anger is also a projection
mm,
of the pain that we haven't really come to terms with or noticed or not even close to reconcile. We project that onto other people and other places and other institutions. And it's totally, justifiable a lot of times and is necessary and warranted, but also it's a way of avoiding the pain and the hurt that's underneath, the surface there. And that getting in touch with the hurt, that's the beginning of something profound happening.
yeah. And then, as I think about conversation I was having recently, because I know people who also watch us, we talk about substance use, but I want people to take a note, see how it's so much more than substances. It always is, and this is why we both talk about our work in harm reduction being so full, because it's not just focused on the substance. But I was sharing with someone, I said, what I found so interesting over this last traumatic situation, incident that myself and my colleagues have experienced, I remember, and it made me feel really good, because I do work around my relationship to alcohol. I used to tell my daughter that, your mama, when I would get mad, I always had somebody who was driving in Chicago. One of my girlfriends who may catch this clip, she drove my car. I was hanging out my sunroof. So like I was so upset about something, but then I was this crying, bumbling person that I didn't want to be. And so whenever something's happening in my life, I'm very super conscious. Like I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna go out and hang out, you guys. I'm not gonna drink. This time, over these last few weeks, when I went through seeing such a tragic situation happen, I absolutely had no desire to want to go have a sip of alcohol. I knew that I needed to sit with, I needed to process, I needed to talk, I needed to not talk, I needed to deal with the shock, the initial uh, uh, assault on my brain. Like I
Mhm.
needed to
Yeah.
do it all. And when I smiled and I think about it, I'm like, all of the work leading up to just that moment and how I chose. And it wasn't even a thought of, okay, I got to tell myself I can't drink around this because I know. I was like, no, I know this is hard. I know this is hitting me hard. And I Going to the Women in Leadership Conference and being able to jump off of a 35-foot pole to reset, to really embrace the fact that this pole was called the leap of faith, and to see how all of these things work together for me. I'm ready. It puts me in the space because that's the next thing, Henry, as we start to close out, is showing people you do this work. You get intentional about acknowledging these small shifts that are taking place as you're looking at that large goal that you have ahead of you. You start noticing and putting in these ways of reflecting on these small steps that are leading you that way. This is the magical moment, is when you can say 5 years ago, this would not have been the way that I would be handling life. This would not be the way that I'm navigating my workspaces, my parental role, my mentorship role, my student role. I wouldn't be able to handle half of the things or make decisions or show up the way that I am if
Yeah.
I didn't do the work.
Yeah. Last year, I sat with a shaman
Mm,
in a ceremony, and shaman, um, his name's Taita Pedro de Villa,
mm,
and he says, um, "You're gonna die. You're gonna die. Do you want to die in pain,
mm,
or do you want to die in joy? You decide."
mm.
So at the end of the day, for all of us, we have the power of choice. And if you're struggling right now with mental health, if you're struggling right now with substance use, if you're in an abusive relationship, if your job's not working out, you have the power of choice to choose the direction of your life. That is so true that every choice that you've ever made have led you to this exact moment. So if you want to experience the shift, it's going to start with the single choice, the power of choice. It is the most profound, simple thing that we all have in our lives is that power of choice. That I get to decide the direction, the course that I want my experience here to take.
Henry, what are you walking into this last quarter, this new season? What are you committing to as you walk forward from in this moment?
That I am courageous and that I am brave,
Stone.
and the light that shines in me helps me navigate the way through the uncertainty that I'm walking into right now.
Yeah, I said you stole mine because the brave. Brave is really sitting on me, and I think it's going to be a part of my word for the new year. Usually, it's a few months out from the new year where I start to really think about what is centering and what's my compass. And being brave is huge. It takes bravery to get up here and be transparent. Although it may look like it's just an easy thing to do, we never know what's going to come up, right? So and our commitment on this platform is to stay authentic, and that can be a little hard. Your heart can be palpitating a little bit when you're like, I don't really know what's going to come up in this, because when you're authentic, you're allowing yourself to show up, and that can be a scary place. So for me, brave. being brave as we continue to watch and be a part of the many shifts, the many difficult conversations, the many challenging moments, um, and showing up in them. Uh, it's a new month, you all, and it's the final quarter of this calendar year. As Henry acknowledged, this is usually the time where we're hibernating, we're pausing, we're stepping back. And I want to encourage you all to think about a couple of things. Think about that question. What am I walking into this last quarter of the year, the last quarter of the calendar year? And am I going to try to pause and really acknowledge the shifts that are happening? We know there are changes happening. We know that there's a lot of chaos happening around us. We don't have to be a part of the chaos. We don't have to be inside of it and let it consume us. We can let it catapult us, though, into the best version of ourselves. The version that we look up in the tears are tears of joy because you can go, damn, look at you. Look at you, Henry. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. And I can see it. I can see it. We've had some conversations this year that took our relationship and our friendship to, I think, new levels.
Yeah. Yeah, you mean a lot. You mean a lot to me. What's going on, Des? You mean a lot to me, and really have. But it's been really sweet these last few years to really get close to you and to really get to know you on just such a pure level.
Yeah,
You
right?
know? And it's like I think when I allow myself to do that, it's like I get to see like not only like the things that are difficult to connect with somebody around, but I also really get to see the divine. I get to see the joy and the gratitude, and that's important. That we're in relationships with other people so that it reflects back to us, so that we can see it. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad you're taking your health and you're taking your wellness,
Yeah,
not just to your own next level for yourself, but I love that you're really putting it into not just the organization, but that it's important that the industry of harm reduction can make space for health and wellness in all the ways that you're not trying to that all the ways that you are putting health and wellness in the front seat with harm reduction.
absolutely. Wouldn't see it any other way than with you by my side. So thank you guys for joining us today. We are getting out of here. This has been a great conversation, Henry. Thank you for always being there and being present. I'll holler at you, my friend.
All right, sis, take care.
All right, you guys.